Howdy, it's me again, and I'm currently working on a special Captain Marvel / Shazam project. Initially, it was just going to be one video, but somehow it's morphed into something much bigger. So while I work on that, I decided to release a video for anyone wanting to know any tidbits about the good captain. In the future, I will go more in depth on each of these aspects of the character though. The Captain Marvel Billy Batson was co-created by C.C. Beck and Billy Parker in 1941 and published by Fawcett Comics and Wiz Comics issue 2 from 1939. Orphaned at a young age, Billy Batson stumbles onto an abandoned subway where he finds a cave and meets the creeperish wizard Shazam. He bequeaths his power to Billy since he's a good kid and all Billy has to do is utter his name, Shazam, and a magic bolt of energy will strike him, transforming him into the world's mightiest mortal. Here are some nicknames that the good captain has gone by. The world's mightiest mortal, the big red cheese, Just Marvel, Captain Thunder, and Captain Shazam. Now his powers are all magic based, and those powers are the wisdom of Solomon, enhanced intellect, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas. With that he gets superhuman stamina and invulnerability. Power of Zeus, which gives him unlimited magical lightning, immortality, and spellcasting. A lot of writers forget about that last one though. The courage of Achilles, and indomitable will, and the speed of Mercury. He also has one more power that people tend to overlook. Teleportation by the Rock of Eternity. He can teleport to the rock, and then he can teleport anywhere in the world from the rock. And here are some of his most known villains. Black Adam, Dr. Savannah, Mr. Mind, the Monster Society of Evil, Mr. Banjo, Mr. Atom, Ibak, Sabak, King Cole, Blaze and Satanus, and of course, Captain Nazi. How popular was he? Well, after the good captain debuted, he became so popular that he usurped Superman. When Superman first appeared, his comics sold on average 1 million copies a month. Now, when Captain Marvel started, he sold the same amount. The thing is, it seems that his sales were taken away from the Big Blue Boy Scouts sales. This unfortunately led to the good captain's downfall though. Oh, one more thing. In 1942, Captain Marvel was the first superhero, not counting Zorro, to have his own movie serial. So what happened to Captain Marvel? Well, his run ended in 1953 after years of lawsuits from DC Comics saying that the Fawcett Comics character was plagiarizing Superman. So for 2 decades, the good captain disappeared from the public consciousness. So where does Marvel fit in here? After a certain amount of time, a character or its name either falls into public domain or loses its copyright. The latter happened with Captain Marvel. In 1967, a new Captain Marvel appeared, this time in Marvel Superheroes issue 12 from December 1967, co-created by Gene Colan and Stan Lee. This version was named Mar-Vell and hailed from the alien race the Kree. So now Marvel owned the name Captain Marvel. Sort of. Did the OG Captain come back? And if so, how? In 1973, DC Comics picked up the Marvel family license. So despite what people think, they didn't own the character until 1994. In 1974, a very good year, DC Comics published Shazam #1, starring Captain Marvel, Mary Marvel, and Captain Marvel Jr. This was their first appearance in 20 years. The series ran 35 issues until 1978. A year after his 1973 comic series premiered, the good captain appeared once again in live action, this time as a Saturday morning television series, also called Shazam. And in 1981, a Filmation cartoon series also called Shazam premiered. You know, this naming scheme is getting a bit redundant. While all these series were successful to a degree, the good captain never reached the same popularity he did in the 1940s. A big part of this may have been because he didn't completely own his own name. See, when Marvel picked up the name and created their own Marvel character, no one who owned or published the Fawcett character could put his name onto anything. Examples would be comics, magazines, or movie titles, and so on. However, they could still call the character Captain Marvel in shows and comics and so on. I imagine, like I said, this is the big reason why he didn't become popular or really popular when he first came back. Another factor for his lack of star power, I think, has to do with that 1973 comic series. The problem with it was exactly like the Golden Age series. That might sound like a good thing, however, comic books by the 1970s were more mature, or rather more sophisticated. Comics then were tackling issues like race, drugs, sex, and so on. The age of the comic book reader also was getting older in the 1970s as well. So the first 33 issues of the Good Captain series just wasn't gonna interest the reader at that time. The art and tone was completely different from what the current reader at the time wanted. I mean, in issue 10, he fights the Salad Man. I will give DC Comics credit though, they did try to put him out more. He was a mainstay in the world's finest comics from 1978 to 1982. After that, he would make a few random appearances in comics like Justice League of America and Adventure Comics. His last pre-Crisis appearance would be in Crisis of Infinite Earths issue 12 though. Now, my first experience of the Good Captain in comic books, however, would be when he first became part of the Wahaha Justice League of the late 80s, early 90s. My next experience with him would occur a few years later, and that event made me a Captain Marvel fan. What was it? The 1994 Power Shazam graphic novel. Now, if we don't count his run in World's Finest, this would be his first comic book that he headlined in almost 20 years. The graphic novel retold his origin but tweaked it for the modern reader. What's interesting about it is that the writer/artist of the book, Jerry Ordway, kept the 1940s feel in the design of Fawcett City. This story properly reintroduced Captain Marvel into a post-Crisis DC Comics. It just took almost a decade to do it. But 1994 is more important to the Good Captain than just having a new book out, because that year was the year that DC Comics finally bought the character as well as the rest of the Marvel family of characters. Before this, like I said, they had only licensed the character. Still, they couldn't put his name on front of any comics or TV or movies though. What's interesting though is Marvel Comics at the time was about to go through bankruptcy. And if DC really wanted the character's name back 100%, they could have made a deal with Marvel that the Good Captain could use his name completely 100%. Now Marvel could have their own Captain Marvel, but DC could have their own Captain Marvel. Seems like a good deal to me. Sure, it would cost some money, but Marvel was desperate back then. DC could have gotten it back for cheap. Ah well, what could have been. Anyway, the graphic novel was a success, and a year later, the Good Captain received an ongoing series also named The Power of Shazam. From that point on, Captain Marvel has been a mainstay in the DC universe. He would join the Justice Society of America in comic books, and he also started appearing more in animation. Some of Young Justice and Justice League Unlimited's best episodes had him in the forefront. Which brings us to the modern day. He has a new movie coming out, and he has a new comic book series out now. Last year was the year of Spider-Man, and it's looking like that this year is going to be the year of Captain Marvel. And no, I refuse to call him Shazam. Well, this was a bit fun, so like I said, I'm currently working on a pretty major Captain Marvel project, so be on the lookout for that. If you like this video, then please comment below, click like and share it, and subscribe to the channel. And until my next video, have a good day.